Welcome back to another episode of FNL Fridays. My name's Teresa, I'm your host, and I'm here to talk all things fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle. Today, I want to talk about a couple of pieces of equipment that you should find in pretty much every gym, and just a brief overview as to what they are, what they're good for, and how you can use them. The three pieces of equipment that I'm covering today are dumbbells, kettlebells, and barbells. So you can see in front of me, I have all three, and you might not know which one is which, but that's okay because I'm here to tell you. Here we have dumbbells. I'm sure you've seen these before. These come in all different weights from 1 pound up to 100 pounds. So dumbbells normally come in sets. Then you have a kettlebell, which is this almost round-shaped weight. These usually come in singles. You can use them together, but generally it's just one piece of equipment. And then this long silver piece in the back is a barbell. Now, most barbells in general are going to weigh 45 pounds. Starting with dumbbells, like I mentioned, dumbbells always come in a set, so you should have two of the same size, the same weight. Personally, I think that dumbbells are a great place to start if you're a beginner because, again, they do come in lighter weights and they're pretty friendly to use. The weight is nice and centered. You can see there's equal weight on each side. So they're relatively simple to use. Of course, you do want to make sure you know what you're doing, but these are a great place to start if you're new to weightlifting. Then we have the kettlebell. So you can see here, there's a heavy part at the bottom. This is called the bell. Then there's the handle at the top, which is nice and thick. It's usually thicker than dumbbell handles, so it works your grip a little bit more. And then on the sides, these pieces here that come up, these are called the horns. So if you hear someone refer to a kettlebell and say, hold it by the horns, that would look like this. If they say, hold it by the bell, that would look like this. If they say, hold it by the handle, of course, that's just right at the top. The difference with a kettlebell and dumbbells is that the kettlebell's center of gravity is very far away from the handle. So the heavy part is here, where the handle is here. On a dumbbell, the weight is centered. You have equal weight distribution on each side. So it's a lot easier to stabilize a dumbbell because you have equal weight on each side. Whereas if I try to hold this sideways, I can't, just because there's so much weight on one side and no weight on the other side of your hand. So it's a lot harder. Same thing here. It's much harder to balance this because that weight is farther from my hand. Some of the benefits of working with dumbbells, like I mentioned, they come in lighter weights, so you can play around with the weight. If you're a beginner, you can start with lighter weights. So it's a very welcoming way to start weightlifting. The other thing that's great about dumbbells is they're separate, so you can move them around, whereas with a kettlebell or a barbell, your hands are locked in place. So if you have mobility issues or pain, it's a little bit harder to use those sometimes because you're locked into a certain position. If you're new to dumbbells, I wanted to show you just a couple of really simple exercises that you can try with dumbbells to get used to using them. The first exercise is called a dumbbell squat. So you would grab the dumbbells, make sure your hands are centered in the middle, hold the weights on your sides, and drop down into your squat. So you're keeping your hands on the side of your body the whole time. Now you can also do these as a front squat variation. So you would bring these up to the front. This would look a little bit different. So now the weight is in front of my body instead of on the side of my body. Another simple exercise you can do with dumbbells is a curl to press. So this works your upper body. So you're doing a bicep curl first, then you're pressing up overhead into your overhead press. From the side, bicep curl first, then an overhead press. One more simple exercise that you can do with dumbbells is a bent over row. So this would work your whole back side. Holding the weights on the side of your body, you would get into a hinged position so your back is nice and flat, your weight's on your heels, and you're pulling the dumbbells towards your hip. Smooth and controlled motion, keeping your back nice and flat, pulling your hands towards your hips. Like I was just sharing, the kettlebell is structured very differently than dumbbells, so it's better for some exercises than the dumbbells would be. For example, the kettlebell is really great for any sort of swinging motion. So you've probably seen people doing kettlebell swings like this. And it's great for that because that weight is far away from the handle, so it kind of supports that motion, that swinging motion. Whereas if you tried to swing a dumbbell, you could, but it's a little more awkward, and the heavier you went with your dumbbell, the more awkward it would be. That being said, I do not recommend kettlebell swings for somebody who is completely new to weightlifting and especially completely new to kettlebells. I recommend that you start with more basic exercises with the kettlebell until you get very comfortable holding it, making sure you're handling it correctly and your grip is strong enough to hold onto it, because the last thing you want to do is swing a kettlebell and have it fly out of your hands into someone else or something else. Some simple exercises that you can start with to get used to a kettlebell would also be a squat, but now you can see that this weight is centered between my legs instead of on the outside of them. Chest up, hips back. If you can, touch the ground. You can also flip it upside down, hold it by the horns, holding it in front of your chest, resting on the chest. Do a front squat, similar to the dumbbell front squat. You can also do a lot of single-sided movements here. So maybe you want to do a single arm row and just work one side. So that could look like this. So now I'm just working one side of my body, but I'm also working on my core and stabilizing and balancing at the same time. While the dumbbells and kettlebells are both great tools, they do have some limitations. And the biggest limitation basically is that they can't go extremely heavy the way that a barbell could, because the barbell, you see, has these two long ends where you can add plates. So you can add a lot of weight to a barbell. Most barbells, if they're as long as this one, are probably 45 pounds. You can see that this barbell has some etching here, which is for your grip. Maybe you can't see it, but it does. And then there's little rings here which show you where to place your hands for certain lifts. If you're new to using a barbell, you don't really need to worry about that stuff, but just so you know what it is, what it looks like, and what are some exercises you could use it for. Because most barbells weigh 45 pounds, this is not a beginner's piece of equipment. So if you are just starting out with fitness, if you're still working on your strength, I wouldn't necessarily recommend using a barbell, just because you do have to be able to lift it. If 45 pounds is a little heavy to you, this would probably not be the piece of equipment you're going to use. Another reason that the barbell is a little more challenging, which can be a good thing, but it's also something to be aware of, is the fact that when you load it up, the weight is far away from your body. You can see there would be a plate here, you slide it onto the end, and then there would be another plate over here. So when I'm holding this, you can see that where those plates would be is pretty far away from my body. It can wobble a little bit, which can be a good thing because it forces you to use more muscles and maintain control. But if your balance is not very good, or you're just not strong enough yet, it could lead to you tipping over, which is not something you want to do ever, but especially with a barbell. A couple of exercises you can try with a barbell, if you're inclined to do so, would be something like a bench over row. Again, if you can row 45 pounds, then you can row a barbell. So with this, you would hinge, keep your back nice and flat, and pull the barbell towards your hips. You can also do a back squat with the barbell on your backside. So you would get the barbell over your head, resting it on the top of your back, not your neck. And you can already see here how this is slightly tilted. So you have to make sure that you're centered in this barbell, otherwise you're going to feel that weight a lot more, especially as you put those plates on the sides here. A back squat with the barbell would look like this. Making sure to keep your elbows tucked down and your chest up. You never want to tip forward in a barbell squat. You want to keep your chest up, push your hips back, and drive all the way through at the top. One of the most common exercises you would probably see with a barbell is the bench press or the chest press. This is when you lay flat on a bench on your back and you have the barbell over your chest and you drive up. It's the same motion as a push-up, but instead of pushing the floor away, you're pushing the bar away from your body. Assuming that you can press 45 or more pounds, this is what a barbell press would look like. Laying flat on your back, knuckles up to the ceiling, exhale, drive up, elbows come down, 90 degrees. Press up. Bring it down. Inhale. Personally, I don't love using a barbell for any sort of pressing motion because in general, you don't press with your hands in a straight line like this. If you imagine I had a bar between my hands, you normally press in this position with your elbows slightly down and your hands rotated slightly out. So when you're using a barbell, it locks your hands into a position where your wrists are not able to rotate at all. That can lead to shoulder impingements and wrist pain. So if that's something you already have, be very careful about using a barbell. Just a word to the wise of something to be aware of. I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, please give it a thumbs up. Also share and subscribe to the channel. That way you never miss any new updates every Friday.